Okay, hi. I don't really know if anybody's watching this. I'm a little late because I was practicing my, I'm going to test something out. I was practicing my talk and then I lost track of time. So my name is Melissa Kirk, and this is my very first Facebook Live, so pardon the fumbling. And the topic of this talk is basically an introduction to publishing for new nonfiction writers. And the idea came to me because I was looking at a lot of author groups on Facebook and was seeing a lot of new nonfiction authors asking the same kinds of questions. So I thought, well, I could actually speak to that because I have so much experience in nonfiction book publishing. So I thought I would just provide this as a service to new nonfiction writers. So if there's anybody here, I can't tell how to find out, feel free to type any questions in the comments and I can see if I can get to them. I'll just kind of see how it goes. So you can also get in touch with me at my website, which is wordstohoney.com, which I'm going to write here. Oops. Or email me at my email address. So, oops. Okay. So I'm a editor. I've been in nonfiction book publishing for about 18 years. I worked at nonfiction book publishing companies for 16 years about, and then I've worked for myself as a freelancer for about 2 years doing the same kind of work. My first job in publishing was at a company called Josie Bass in San Francisco, which did, my department, we published books for teachers in higher education. So, and then my second publishing company was called New Harbinger Publications in Oakland. And we did books on psychology, wellness, health, self-help, that kind of thing, spirituality, self-development. And I was an acquisitions editor and a developmental editor. So I was the one that people were sending book proposals to. And then I was also working with the authors on developing the manuscript. So that is how you know that I know what I'm doing. So here are some of the books I worked on. I don't have all of them. I've probably worked on about 70 books or more in my life, in my career. This is the one I'm the most proud of is this book. I worked as an acquisitions editor for this book and acquired it and worked closely with the author, Rick Hansen, who is now a well-known speaker on the Buddhist psychology, spirituality circuit. So that's how I know what I'm talking about. So first off, just want to congratulate you if you have written a manuscript, or in the middle of one, or wanting to write one. Then congratulations. Publishing and writing is an adventure, and the almost 20 years I've been in the industry, seeing a book come out, seeing the book go from concept to published book never gets any less thrilling for me. So welcome to that process. I hope it goes well for you. So I want to, first thing I want to talk about is the fact that, and I've seen this a lot in the author groups I've been looking at, is that people don't tend to really have a thought out goal for their book. So I really encourage you, if you're interested in publishing a nonfiction book, that you think about what your goal is for the book, okay? Because if you don't have a good goal for it, if you don't know what it's supposed to do for you, then you might affect the writing, you might be marketing it wrong. If you really understand what you're trying to do with your book, it really helps you in writing it, organizing it, marketing it, and it is likely to be more successful. So a goal for your book can be something like, how many copies do you want it to sell? Are you trying to get an income from it, or is it serving another purpose? If you're really trying to publish a book and then get an income from it, it'll affect how you price it, how you market it, how you write it probably. So that's one goal. So who do you want to read the book? I'm going to talk about audience a little bit later, but who, like one of your goals to think about is like who are you actually targeting? So you're going to want to think about that. How do you want the book to affect the reader? What's the reader going to get out of the book, and why are they going to read it? And how is it going to affect the larger community that they're in? How is it going to affect the world? What kind of effect do you want the book to have out there? Like, why are you writing it? What kind of publishing do you want to do? Do you want to self-publish? Do you want to get a publisher? That can be a little fuzzy, but you still want to think about what your plan is. Will there be more books in the series? Are you, is it just going to be a standalone? Are you planning on writing more than one? That's good, because that's going to affect how you write the book and how you market it. How do you want the book to tie into your career or your business? What is the book's role in your life? So, for example, excuse me, reading my notes. Even if a book doesn't sell a ton of copies of the book, it can still be a very good tool for marketing your business or your brand. So, and also creating like having people perceive you as an expert on the topic. So it's not just selling books that's really the reason to do this. It's there's lots of other reasons why writing a book can make sense. But you really do want to know. You want to know what your goal is for it. So if you want to sell it, hi Sean, are you going to write a book? If you want to sell, you just really need to know what the purpose is. So for example, I just wrote a small book. It's probably going to be about 30 pages or something on how to write a good book proposal for nonfiction authors. And my goal for that book is to establish myself as an expert, to use as kind of, to use as, so I'm just talking to you basically, Sean. So I'm writing it because I want to establish a brand for myself. I want it to tie into my business. I'm probably going to sell it for a very small amount of money because it helps with perception of value. But I'm not really expecting to make it like my living off this book. So I'm just going to use it as a business tool. So since I don't think there's anybody else watching this, but if there are, feel free to type in your goals for your book if you have one, or if you're thinking about one, even if it's later on, because I'm curious. So another huge question that I see in author groups is, should I go with a traditional publisher, or should I self-publish? And this is probably the biggest question I see come up, and there's a lot of debate about it. So just in case you don't know, you probably do, but traditional publisher is basically when you convince a company to publish your book. So you pitch the book to the publisher, or your agent pitches it. The publisher either rejects it, in which case you try another publisher, or accepts it, offers you a contract, and the contract will outline what they hold in terms of rights for the book. So most publishers will hold the rights for printing and distributing the text of the book. They might also want to hold might want to. Oh, hi Haley, are you writing a book? Thanks, you guys. So where was I? So traditional publisher, they do everything, right? They edit the book, they design the cover, they design the interior of the book, they create a marketing package, they likely have a marketing team in their house. They print the book, they distribute the book, they store it if it's a print book, and then they do a lot of the marketing and publicity. They have distribution channels. They're the ones who can get it into bookstores, all that stuff. Announce it to the media, arrange for interviews, basically figure out ways to get the reader to notice the book and to buy the book, to a point, which I'll talk about later. But Basically, they're going to do most of that hard lifting. And you'll get a percentage of what the publisher gets for the book, which is not necessarily the sales price. And royalties are really varied. So you can, I've seen them as low as 5%. I've seen them as high as 20%. So it really depends on the publisher and what they expect the book is going to do. Like if they expect it to sell a lot and it's priced high, they might give you a higher percentage royalties. But if they don't have a lot of faith in it or they don't know, it'll be lower. And in terms of advances, if you may or may not get an advance. So in my company, if you are a new author with no platform and no track record of selling books, we were unlikely to give you an advance. So this is one reason why, and I'll talk about this in a minute, it's really good for you to build an author platform before you even publish the book, before you start approaching publishers, because the more they think that you can help them sell it, the more likely they are to actually give you any kind of advance or a better royalty, you know. Hi. So anyway, so self-publishing is where you do everything yourself and you pay for everything yourself and you get all the money. So and it sounds great. Maybe you write the book, you pay for any editing you do, you pay for the cover design, you pay for the book design, you pay for printing. If it's a hard copy book, you pay for storage unless you're using print on demand. You pay for fulfillment or somebody to fulfill the book to send it out to people. And you pay for marketing and publicity. And, you know, if the book sells great, that's awesome. You get all the money. If it doesn't, you know, hopefully you have other goals for the book, so that might not matter so much. But it's pretty much all on you at that point. So then the question people ask a lot is, which one is better? And there really is no better. It really depends on you. It depends on the book project, and it depends on your temperament. I don't think self-publishing is for everybody. Traditional publishing is easier in a lot of ways because, like I said, you don't really need to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but it's also less lucrative. So, and then you have to basically convince a publisher to work with you. A lot of authors I talk to intend to pitch the book to publishers, and then if they don't get any bites, to self-publish. I think that's a really common way to do it, and I think that's fine. But it is a myth that traditional publishers do everything. It's, you know, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute too, but you're still going to have to market the book. They are not going to do everything for you in that way. So that's just something to know about traditional publishers. The most successful books always have a really active author who's working hard to market themselves. So then there's this other question: is should I pay a publishing company to publish my book? And this is something that I feel like basically buyer beware. Like, just be careful if you do that. There are a lot of companies out there who are trying to convince authors to, pay them to publish their book, and they're very good at their marketing. So I've read a lot of stories from authors where they agree to pay somebody to publish the book. So say the company says, "Oh, okay, pay us $3,000 and we'll publish your book for you. We'll do all the marketing, and you'll make you'll sell thousands of books." But then what happens with some of these places is, they come back and they say, "Oh, well, we really need some more money now," and so I've heard of people who just get completely scammed by this company. So I would just say, if you're considering that option, that I'm not saying all pay-to-play publishers are pirates, but just be really, really careful. If you find a company that seems legit to you, do your research. Go online, see who's talking about them, what they're saying. Go to Better Business Bureau, see if they have any, see what their rating is, see if anybody's talking about them, on Yelp, on Facebook, wherever. Go to author groups, ask if anybody's heard of them. Go to your author friends and ask them. I mean, anybody just make sure that they're legit. And if you end up going with them and somebody says, "Oh, okay, we want to publish your book," read the contract and before you sign it, before you give them any money, read the contract, okay? Because that's where they sometimes get you, is they sort of assume that you aren't going to know what you're talking, or you aren't going to know how to read a contract, so then that's where they can sometimes get you. So if you get a contract, go to somebody who knows something about publishing contracts, and have them read it. Hire somebody, go to a lawyer, but make sure you understand what you're signing before you give them any money, okay? You can contact me. I've been negotiating contracts in publishing for 16 years. So just be really careful and buyer beware. So another question I see is, should I get the book edited before submitting it to publishers? And I would say most publishers will do the editing for you. I mean, they'll do their own editing. So if you are submitting to traditional publishers, you don't really have to do incredible editing. You do want to make sure the manuscript is in good shape, like there's not a lot of spelling errors, that kind of thing, but you don't really have to do a lot of editing. In fact, a lot of publishers don't want you to submit an entire manuscript. They want to do some more work on it before they publish it. That's what we did at my company. So in some cases, it makes sense even to propose, pitch the book to book publishers before you ever finish it. You can do that. A lot of times they just want 2 or 3 sample chapters and not the whole manuscript. So if you're in the middle of writing your book, it might make sense for you to actually start pitching it now if you want a traditional publisher. But if you're self-publishing, then you absolutely 100% yes must get your book edited, because if you have a bad book, if it's just not written well, if it's not organized well, and it's just not going to help it's not going to sell well, it's not going to help your brand, it's not going to help your business. So make sure that if you do self-publish, the manuscript has to be in really good shape. So, and yeah, I'm biased because that's what I do for a living. Most of my authors want to self-publish. So, and then one thing that I have noticed is new authors don't always understand that there are more than one type of editor. There are actually 2 major types of editors. I am a developmental editor, so I work with concepts. I help the author figure out, the best concepts for the book, how to frame them, how to write about them, how to organize the book so that it's effective, how to, write to the audience. It's really important to write in a way that the audience is going to understand you. So that's what I do. But there are also copy editors who do more the line-by-line editing, so grammar, punctuation, fixing spelling errors, fixing sentence structure, sentence construction, and most professionally published books have both kinds of editor work on them. And then there's the proofreader, who is the person who really just makes sure there are no mistakes in the manuscript once those editors have looked at it. So if you do want to hire an editor, it's really important to know what kind of editing you want them to do. Make sure you talk to them about what your expectations are, about what the work, what kind of work they're doing on your book. So next issue I'm finding is that a lot of times new authors don't get contracts for the professional services they hire. And I'm kind of shocked by this, because I'm just like, I'm a huge fan of contracts because it makes sure that everybody knows what the expectations are. So I'm just going to say this: always get a contract if you're hiring somebody to do work on your book, and if you are allowing a publisher the right to publish your book, just get a contract and always understand your contract. Don't assume that the publisher is looking out for you, because I negotiated contracts for 16 years with an emphasis on making sure the publisher got the best deal. So, and I know that it's not that they're necessarily trying to screw you, but they have stuff in there that is intended to help them and not you. So just make sure you understand the contract. If you don't understand contracts, it's perfectly fine to go get somebody to look at it who does. You can hire a lawyer. You can contact me. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm happy to help with that. If you're self-publishing and you're hiring somebody, say an editor or a cover designer or something, or even like a web designer or something, and if they don't already have a contract to offer you, which is a huge red flag, by the way, if they don't have a contract, then they're probably not that professional. So, but if they don't and you still want to work with them, go find a contract online and, fix it so that it makes sense for your situation, and then have them sign it. Never give anyone money to do any work for you without a contract. I'm serious. So that's one thing that you take away from this, if anybody's actually watching. Always get a contract, okay? Even if a person's a friend or a friend of a friend, if you're giving them money, get a contract. So another thing that I see people, new authors not really understanding that well is who the audience is for their book. This is absolutely vital to understand about your book if it's gonna be successful. You have to understand who you're writing for. And as an acquiring editor for all those years, I got a lot of book proposals where the author has actually insisted that the book's audience is everyone on the planet, and that is just not true. So no, it's not. Or the audience is so huge and varied that there'd really be no way to market the book to that huge of an audience. You have to know who your audience is and where they are in order to find them and convince them to buy your book. So if you take one thing away from this talk, I think it should be always use a contract. If you want to take two things away from this talk, take away the following concept. It's a myth that the bigger your audience is, the more books you'll sell. The opposite is actually true. The better targeted your book is, the higher percentage of people in that audience will buy your book. If the book is too broadly targeted, it's not going to be talking to anyone in that target market effectively, and you'll sell fewer books. The readers want to see their reality reflected in the books they read. They don't want to be taught. No reader wants to buy a book where the book is talking to all these other people a lot of the time. They want the book to be talking to them 100% of the time. So if you're having chapters that are focused on different aspects or different people, different audiences, don't do that, because no reader wants to read a book where they're only like 3 out of the chapters out of the book are for them. That's not going to be helpful to them. So, and it's just a lot harder to market a book to a very varied audience. So like a 65-year-old military vet man is not going to respond to the same marketing techniques as a 20-year-old female college student, right? So in terms of how you decide who your audience is, if you have to ask that question, you probably need to work more on your book concept, because it should be really pretty obvious. So for example, say you're writing a book on a complex science topic, and you want the audience to be lay people. You want the audience to be the people off the street who haven't studied science, but you just want them to understand this concept. So right there, that your audience is non-science majors who are intellectually curious and want to know about this topic. So if you came to me with that manuscript and it was written in super high-tech jargon, scientific language that normal non-science people don't understand, and it's written in a very academic way, I would say, I'm going to work with you on making this book actually appeal to your actual audience, which is lay people, right? So people who don't really get all that jargon. And then, once the book is either accepted by a publisher or published, it's much easier to find that audience of lay people who are interested who are intellectually curious and interested in science. It's much easier to market to them than it would be to just like everybody who has ever seen the word science, So organization's another issue that is really important that I find is there's some confusion about. And hopefully as you're writing the book, you're using an outline. If you're not using an outline, you must use an outline. That's the best way to get the book to flow well and to be accessible and useful for your reader. Use an outline. Think of the outline as a map of the book, and you're the trail guide, right? You're leading the reader on the trail to understanding your concept. So you wouldn't start a trail hike by dropping right into the middle of the trail route, you would start at the beginning, you'd start at the trailhead, and then you would end at the end point, right? So organizing your book is a lot like this. You need to start at the beginning and end at the ending. You start with your most basic concept, and then you build on it as you go further along. You need to guide your readers on an intuitive path through the topic, the way you teach anyone a new skill. So for example, if you're writing a book on how to train a dog using your particular method, you start by explaining where your method came from, you explain the assumption it makes about dogs and dog psychology, and then you take the reader through step one. How do you start this training process? So you don't, for example, tell them how to end a training session before you tell them how to start one, right? You tell them how to handle the dog, you tell them how to start a training session, you tell them how to reward the dog, where you don't just like jumble them all together in this random way. You tell them in a step-by-step way. So that's what you need to do when you're organizing your book. So I get a lot of questions about preparing the manuscript. And really, this is not a mystery. Like publishers and self-publishing apps, they take word processing documents. So like Word doc files. So you don't have to be fancy about it. You don't have to have some special kind of writing software. You just have to have Word or something similar. The only thing I would say is I've had trouble where authors who I'm working with are using a word processing software that doesn't save the file in the right format, so it's harder for me to use, and vice versa. So try to use something that's commonly used, like Word. You can get a subscription for it for $6.99 a month. That's what I do. Or something where the software saves it in a common document file. And stuff like fonts and type size and margins and all that stuff, they don't really matter as you're writing. Because if you're working with a publisher, you're going to send them the manuscript and then their production team is going to do all the rest. If you're going to self-publish, the major self-publishing services and apps just use Word documents, text files. So you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, just don't worry about it. So marketing is another huge topic. And this needs its own live cast because it's so important. But basically, if you're gonna sell copies of your book, if you want to sell a lot of your book or you want to use it to build your brand, you're gonna have to market it. There's no two ways about it. You can hire somebody, which is fine, but you're still gonna have to show up in the marketing of it. Because, like marketers talk about conversion rates, people who see you, the author, and get to know you and recognize you as, an interesting human being are much more likely to buy a book that you write than somebody who never sees a picture of you, never hears your voice, doesn't really know what you do. So you're going to have to, like, if you don't want to do that, maybe your goal for the book is different, but I would just think about how much you're willing to do to market your own product here. And publishers will help with that, definitely. But like I think I said earlier, they publish between 10 to 40 new books a year, not including backlists. So they're not going to be able to focus on the book the way that you are going to be able to. So just know that. And the other thing is that publishers are more likely to offer you a contract if you are already doing your own marketing. If they see that you're really on it, you have your Facebook groups or your Twitter account or your blog readers or anything where you're getting interaction with your potential readers, the publisher is going to be way more likely to accept the book for publication and to give you an advance. Because if you don't, if you're not doing anything, they're going to know if you're going to be up for marketing it, so they may not want to take a risk on you. So the most successful books are ones where the author is doing active marketing. So if you are, if you want to be a successful author, learn how to market yourself. And the best way to sell books is to establish yourself as an expert on the topic. And you can do this at any stage in the process of publishing a book. In fact, you should be doing it now. If you're, even if you're thinking about writing a book and you're thinking about publishing it, start now to establish yourself as an expert if you haven't already. This could mean being active on targeted social media, like in Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups, or blogging, giving talks at conferences, giving talks to your potential readers, holding workshops, holding retreats, having an email newsletter, writing for online or print magazines, just anything where you're establishing yourself as an expert. People are starting to trust you. They know who you are. They know your name. Because if they don't know who you are, they're much less likely to want to buy a book from you because, who is this person? I don't know. And so, yeah, if you're writing a book right now, I would just start now, like every day, just do something to establish yourself as an expert. And if you want more tips on that, feel free to contact me. I actually do book marketing also. So let's see, what else? So I guess the last topic that keeps coming up is what the heck is an ISBN and why? How do I get one? Why do I need one? How do I get one? So, and I actually had to look this up, like what ISBN stands for, because I've been in the industry for a while and I never really thought about what it actually stands for. So it stands for International Standard Book Number. Who knew? So ISBN is an identification code. Right here. Every book has a unique one, and your book will need more than, like, any individual format of your book is going to need its own. So if you have a paper book and then you have an ebook, they're both going to need a different ISBN. And if you really need to get one if you want the book distributed anywhere. So if you want it in bookstores, if you want it in libraries, if you want to sell it on Amazon, you really need an ISBN. And you can buy ISBNs through a company called Bowker. That's Bowker. I'll actually put it in the comments here. And they sell ISBNs. You can also look online for ISBN agencies. I don't really usually trust random internet companies, so like I would go through Bowker for me. And one thing I just learned yesterday about ISBNs, which I didn't know, is that even though you can get a free or cheap one on CreateSpace, that the contract states that you can only publish that book on CreateSpace and you can only distribute it through their accepted channels, which is depending on your book's goals or your goals for your book. You may want to be able to publish it wherever you want. So you may choose to use, what was I going to say? You may choose to get a more expensive ISBN through Bowker or somebody where you can actually sell it wherever you want. And again, I'm going to emphasize this again, read your contract before you sign anything. So if you're buying an ISBN, make sure if you're not using Bowker, go research the company, make sure they're legitimate, read the contract, read what you're agreeing to before you do anything. So that's that's basically it. What is it? It's been half an hour. I think there's one person watching. I don't know who it is. And that's all I have for basic publishing concepts for new nonfiction book authors. And later on sometime, I will do other talks on other concepts where I can get into them more deeply. But this is just sort of a book publishing 101 for new nonfiction authors. So I don't think there's any questions because I think it's only one person watching me. If there are, go ahead and type it in. And I can also come in later on. I'll save this and people can type in questions in the comment section. You can also come to my website, which is wordstohoney.com. And you can email me at melissa@wordstohoney.com. So thanks to the 3 people, I think, who've watched me. This is my first Facebook Live. Yay! So anyway, have a great day. Bye.